we'll be monitoring it. If we put something in the chat box, we can get to it. There's a couple of pauses in the presentation where we're waiting for stuff to load into any point as we deploy mules and stuff. But so there is some time to get back to that. But yeah, the idea behind this was, let's build with the pre-built pieces of Enosix and the Enosix connector. Let's build something in 10 minutes that would take weeks to even come up with a spec or a design spec. And it really is that easy. So with that being said, most of you probably don't know who Enosix is. Well, we're a global company. We have been a Salesforce partner for over 10 years. We've been in a MuleSoft partner for about 2. We're an ISV. We're one of the few companies that are an ISV and certified on both MuleSoft and Salesforce. And in the coming months, about June, the release of an industry cloud inside for manufacturing cloud, as it's known. That product will have MuleSoft built in, and we'll have the Enosix connector built in, ready to connect to SAP out of the box. There's, of course, a little bit of SOW from a services perspective, but because everybody's SAP system is different. But that's the type of trust you have in this partnership between Enosix, MuleSoft, and Salesforce, and that synergy is only going to get stronger as we put those certified components into more and more products. So global companies, mostly based upon HLS, CPG, and manufacturing are key verticals that we focus in on. And if you're a partner of MuleSoft, you're probably a partner of Enosix as well. We share a lot of the same ecosystem when it comes to deploying and building APIs as we do when integrating to SAP. So the real reason behind this slide is to talk about, there's an SAP connector out there. Why do we need another one? Why do we need to do this? And frankly, the SAP connector out there has about 1,000 customers using it, and mostly they're using them to batch data, to replicate data to either an S3 bucket or a database, and then or maybe even a pub sub model, and then they're subscribing that and pushing that out to applications. The problem with that is, and what our customers would come forth with, is replicated data. When you've got somebody on the phone asking, "Where's my order?" You don't need a batch data that was updated. Even you need real-time information, and real-time and SAP just are like oil and water. They, without massive stand-up of custom BAPIs and a configuration on the SAP side, it's really, really hard to do SAP in real time. With this connector, you have one connector for ECC, one connector, and the same connector can go to HANA. Anything that is built here is fully portable to S4 HANA. So you can innovate now, and you can reuse 100% of those integrations inside Enosix without recoding. And you can sync data, as you're going to see today. You can transact upon it. If we have time, you'll see that as well. And we also can virtualize data. We pre-built all the screens inside those Salesforce clouds because they're the #1 CRM solution, and that's what people need to service customers. They're usually in a Salesforce type of environment. So by building that, we made it easy to consume, and easy, and the scalability of our solution is unmatched. When we look at this, the connector itself, it's more aggressively priced, so lower price than what the current connector options are. The connector itself is only half of the battle, though, or only half of the equation. There's 2 other components that really differentiate the Enosix way, or the Enosix approach. You have the connector that can be accessed with a system level API. That connector can reach back into SAP, but it doesn't use the standard BAPIs, as you learned from Anne going through the demonstration. We created our own, and we created our own because we can orchestrate, transform, and translate data faster, and we don't need the dependencies of shipping an entire IDOC of information and having an iPass rip it apart and then get to the real meat of the equation. So by having code that's certified in SAP as an add-on package, certified by and purpose-built for extracting things in real time, that's the gap in the solution. And that's why MuleSoft And Enosix became partners. There's also, if anybody knows SAP and has to deal with an element or a module called variant configurator or variant config, that's complex pricing. And complex pricing is one of the things that we work really well, because we're not trying to replicate all that business logic. We leave the data alone. We leave the logic in SAP where it's managed properly versus trying to replicate it into a source system like Salesforce. So by doing that, we're the only solution globally that can leave variant configure alone and return results in real time. It also applies into currency conversion, is very difficult to do, and inventory information as well. All real time when you need it, but we can equally virtualize and sync data just as well as any other connector in the marketplace. So that's a little bit of an overview. Before we get into the demo, I wanted to walk through this picture, what I just talked about. On the left, you see your SAP system, and you have APIs pre-built. So every place that you see the Enosix logo, that's a piece of code or a pre-built connector that you didn't have to design, develop, QA, deploy, and maintain. And they're built by SAP experts. Our team of SAP designers has over 150 years of SAP experience between them. So it's purpose-built for portals, for commerce, for vendors, for suppliers that require that type of real-time access. So you've got the ability to extract data out of real time, sync it, all the benefits of the MuleSoft platform, and we're really just extending that idea of reuse to the exponential level, because this is stuff that a regular MuleSoft programmer now doesn't have to have subject matter expertise in SAP, nor know the data model in SAP, which is very complex. Or frankly, they don't have to know the German acronyms for all the commands either. We take care of that, and our connector will allow MuleSoft programmers to be more proficient, deliver faster time to value, so that you can move data from SAP to the people that need it to build value in your business. So that's kind of the amount of time that I wanted to spend with y'all and kind of set up the stage. I'd like to pause in case anybody had any questions about what I said, and address them. And if not, we can dive into Studio, and Ann can walk us through a couple examples on building syncing data out of SAP. Okay, I'm just checking the chat, see if there's anything there.
No question popped up in the chat yet. And Anne, it looks like you were talking. I didn't hear you, and I think we're getting feedback.
And share.
There you
go. I got a little bit of feedback, but it sounded bassy for a minute.
Yep, my headset's having some problems today. Okay. Let me know if you can hear me.
Okay, so you're fine now. I'm going to stop sharing and give you control.
There we go. All right.
Can SAP data that is synced into SFDC be used in the Salesforce report? Okay, so Chris, we'll get to that question about SAP data synced. The answer, yeah. You always got an answer. Man, you sound like you're laying on a horn. Stopped at a light. That feedback's bad.
That question, can SAP data that is synced into Salesforce be used in Salesforce reporting? The answer is yes. However, when we're going to talk through this demonstration and this discussion today, and we love more chat questions, we think of it in a couple different ways, because our customers think of it that way. So when we look over here, right, I'm in Exchange, right, and I'm in the library here of all the assets, and we can see that I've already got a business group here of Enosix. And what we're giving anybody who any developer team in MuleSoft, we're giving you pre-built applications, pre-built APIs, pre-built templates, right? I've got a order system API template. I've got a sync template. I've got REST APIs, dozens of these. We've got some accelerators here. So what we're doing is we're handing you the SAP logic, and we've unlocked that logic in a couple different ways, and we'll talk through it here in a moment, to enable things like order sync. Okay, but when we look at, I'm going to jump into let's go to the template first. When we go to implement, let me go back to the other one. The API template. This is a pre-built template that we're going to import into Anypoint Studio. I've already done it, but you can see it already has a guide of what kind of deployment factors need to be there, what prerequisites are needed, and it has a setup guide. So we're guiding you when we talk about those 10 minutes here all throughout the process. So what needs to be set up, what are the prerequisites, how do you deploy it? And then when we look at something, if we look at the implementation template, or let's see, let's go to order system API. We're going to look and give you a guide here in the assets list of the API specifications that Enosix has. Now in Dave's diagram, you saw those little icons and you saw purchase order, Rio, and order object. And what those are our APIs that we have, and we have hundreds of them ready to deploy. And when we look at specifically about sales orders here, could be work orders, purchase orders, any of those objects we have back in SAP. You can see we have the API specs for order item search, create, update, simulate. And then when we drill into the order create, we're going to give the developer some guidance here. The purpose of this API, what is it? It's used to create a new sales document or do a search. What are the required fields in the JSON? You have to have a header, a sold to party field. You have to have a sales document type. What are the return values? What are the possible return values? What are the items action array necessary? And what are these? It's kind of really translating what the SAP APIs that Enosix gives you, what it means and how to utilize them, including sample code here. And so when we talk about the fact that, we need a sold to party. That's an account in Salesforce that would map to that. SAP calls it a sold to party. But if you are doing this with a standard SAP API, and this is where we're talking about what is the difference between what Enosix do, we joke around and say you don't have to have a PhD in SAP to be able to develop with the MuleSoft connector and Anypoint Studio and the Exchange library of pre-built templates that we have. For example, sold to party, that actually the German, it's not a German word, it's a concatenation of an S.
And if you're still talking, we're just getting feedback right now. We lost you.
Fields, and look at just the, there's lots of fields here, the values that you can have, and we have humanized those and translated. So not only are we guiding you on the deployment required prereqs, but also what do these APIs do? Purpose, return values, item action array, sample code, and then most importantly, we've translated the German field names to readable, humanized English.
And sorry.
Yeah.
Right when you said sold to party is a concatenation of, you cut to feedback and we lost you for a while there.
Okay. Let me trade my headset real quick then.
Sorry about that.
This has been happening all day. I'm going to blame
QT for that today. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yep. So what I was saying is that the field name in SAP for sold to party, which marries to the account in Salesforce as an example, is Kuner. And what we do with our API templates that we have that you're going to use through the connector through Anypoint Studios, we've humanized them into real readable English. So this is VTWEG and AUART. They're all German field names, and we're giving you not only what are the APIs, the purpose, the return values, the required fields, but also we've humanized the SAP field names. And if we go over here to the right-hand side, a long list of values and terms, even just on an order that we're, you don't have to be, we joke around that you don't have to have an SAP PhD to develop with our APIs and with MuleSoft. All right, Tom, cover everything?
Yes, it did.
So you can hear me still? Okay, great. And then, Chris, to your question about when we sync, typical SAP API syncing tools are going to grab the whole tables, the whole set of tables, and throw them into the front end. With Salesforce, we support a lot of other front ends as well. And Enosix is going to actually send the order themselves over in a full, complete manner. So we'll go look at that right now into AnyPoint Studio. So as we notice, the templates were already in Exchange. I can use the drop down here and import these templates that I just showed you into Exchange. For time's sake, we already have done that. And of course, you're going to have an application property file where you're going to set your username, password, the system, the URL, the MongoDB properties if you're syncing here, for example. And what you'll see when we look at this flow for the order sync piece, and we've already got that displayed here as well, is as I scroll down, we've got the various components. So we can get an order sync. When I can go to the sync page here, we can look at the transformation of the message. I'm actually going to change some of the fields that we're going to sync. But first, let's go to the Open Console, and we'll open that up, and we'll just look at the API endpoints that we have for syncing orders. If I look at the post, again, we're always guiding you throughout this process as MuleSoft developers. So we have query parameters, some example of the JSON that you can put in the code and what the results are going to be. I'm going to put in a batch size query parameter here of 500. Now we're going to, and then I'm going to just do a quick sync orders from SAP to a MongoDB that we have over here already set up. And I'm going to do the data load. Let's do it from 12. Let's do 12/31 and 2023. And I'm going to do the initial load as false. And let's send that data over. Okay, that's running, as we can see. With our API, I can take this order sync ID and I can go look at the status of my order. And I can pop it over here into the order sync key field. Pop that in, hit that, get the request back, and it says, yes, it is successfully synced over 82 orders. Okay, I'm going to go over to our MongoDB here, do a quick refresh. And here's our order analytics. Here's our order and sales order data. And as you can see, we've got 82 new documents that have been synced over to this MongoDB. This, of course, could be any example. We want to sync it to an application such as Salesforce, absolutely. But you'll see we have the nice humanized field names, right? So you can then grab that as it is in the source and have that information in that data. What about Swiss and Austrian? Yes. So when we talk about German, it is no shade to the German language, but exactly whatever language MuleSoft is in your SAP system, we've translated those terms from the SAP concatenated fields to sales document customer number, for example. All right. Now, let's say that you, as a developer, have a request. Your team says, great, love to see these sales orders. This is awesome. But Anne, you forgot to put in the distribution channel. We need that in our reporting. We need to know where, what the main distribution channel for all these orders are, because they may be varied of where these orders are being sent to and distributed out of. Absolutely. Because I have Enosix, I can actually come over to the sync page in this template, and we'll look at the transformation message here. Sorry, let me just see if I can drag it up just a little bit so you can see. And what we is the variables, right? The variables that we saw in the API specs and templates in Exchange are listed here as well. And here's the variables that are mapped to the output and the array. And so while distribution channel is listed, it's not over here in the JSON. So we want to add that over. And I'm going to drag and drop that over. We'll see if that works. Yep, let me just do that again. Drag it over to the distribution channel. And now it adds that code into my JSON. And I'm going to make sure this says null. And it added my quote in here for me, or my comment in the back. And that looks syntactically correct. I'm going to hit save. And now as we run that job again, so go to my console, we'll go over to the post, and I'll rerun it for the same, change the dates on me, fine enough. We'll go to 23/12, and we'll say false again, and we'll run it once again. Okay. And now we'll pop over to the MongoDB, we'll do a sales order refresh. And we are appending the list of data here. So you'll see we have 164, so 80 times 82 plus times 2 is going to be that. We'll go to the end of the list to see the distribution channel. And I'm going to have to go over a little bit. Keep going. One of these pages, 121. There we go. There's the distribution channel listed in there. All right. Do a quick refresh. So you can quickly add those SAP fields to the values and that sync job as we saw. Questions on that? Any questions in the chat, Dave and Tom?
I have not seen any new questions.
All right. I love the comments. Germans are not humans indeed. Yeah, SAP's complex, right? That's the whole story behind it. And what Enosix is bringing to the table is the ability to understand and give you the templates, the pre-builtness for SAP out of the box. Of course, we do that when Dave talked about that implementation services. Absolutely. The backend objects that we have to do an order sync, there's going to be custom fields that an SAP customer has here. That is part of the work that we would do with that customer. But we are 80% ready to go out of the box for these type of objects. And not only are we going to sync data, what Dave alluded to earlier is we also, one of our customers, it's my favorite line that they say, we don't want to collect data, we want to connect the data. So when we think about typical integration, batching data from one source like an SAP system to any front end through MuleSoft is traditional, and that's what SAP gives us as SAP users and developers and consumers. But Enosix was built to not only sync data, but to power up virtualization of the data. So when somebody says, hey, I want to know where's my order, what's my tracking number, they cannot wait for the batch job, or the batch job that happened last night is not going to be correct, right? The delivery might be on my doorstep or at the office or at the warehouse. They want to know that real-time information. So that's where we come into play with our real-time order virtualization, any really object in SAP, and then also as the virtualization, but also transact with SAP. So I'm going to deploy this API implementation template for a moment, and we're going to bring up the other console, and I'm going to create data using another one of our templates back to SAP live and in real time with all the values. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And when I think about it, and what our customers come to Enosix for, is they need data to power up real-time processes, business processes like a B2B commerce store, to batch over the inventory for a commerce portal when somebody wants to know how many components of this part do I have, how many orders do I have, how many I want to do a reorder every month of these parts or these components or these batteries or these toolkits. I need to know what's available and when. And those are the type of real-time data needs that commerce portals need, quoting needs, sales and service needs. Service folks need this. They want to know, where's my order? So the number one call for call centers that come in over the wire. And they want to be able to look and answer that in real time without having to swivel chair, swivel screen, or you have your road warriors who have to answer those same questions. They want to be able to answer it in real time, have the correct answer for their customers. All right. So we deployed the system API. And again, this is just like what we saw, the API endpoints with the order search, material search, order create. I know we're a little bit getting on time, so I'm going to just pop in right over to order create. And again, you could have optional parameters or show the headers. I'm going to take out this JSON here. This is exactly like the Swagger portal if I want to test this. And I'm going to pop over my order create text that I have here. 1 second.
And just to be clear, what we committed to showing on for the meetup, we synced over data. It was very little build time, and we're in extra innings, and we're showing something that is an extra add to the document because we've got a little bit of time. Correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct. Yep.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that the sync worked. It was updated. We put a parameter that wasn't in the original spec. Somebody made an enhancement request to get that distribution channel in there and showed that with data weave and reran it. And now we're going into what would be like an API call into MuleSoft that would then contact our connector and pull data out or push or actually transact data and create an order in SAP. That's what Anne's doing right now. So just wanted to kind of set the stage for clarity.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, David. I needed your help there. Absolutely. And when I paste in this code, you'll see we've got the sold to party. So that's the customer account to any front end that we're going to consume. This is the API calling. What's the sales document type? Remember in the required field, sold to party and sales document type. We're here, and we even have this guide as well, required fields in the JSON, return values, items action array. Here's the distribution channel. Here's the items that we're going to update in our create order. We're going to add 13 quantity for the material Blaze and 11 for the Alta product into SAP. And then, of course, I can add additional fields if I want to. Here's the sample code and all the parameters that we can have. But it's really to tell the story of syncing is fine and needed, but we want to also offer an easy way, 10 minutes in there. Maybe we're all of 15 minutes, right, to build not only the syncs, but to show order creation and transacting with SAP in real time. And so I'm going to send this, get that result back. All right, we've got a result status that was super quick. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here and look at all the fields that got populated automatically. And then all the way down here, we are going to get the order number. Here we go. So sales header has been processed successfully. Here's the sales document. It is standard order 16983 has been saved, and even a delivery was created in our SAP system. Here's our job array and key, and success is true. And if you guys are going to be lucky today, you get to see SAP. But if I come over to my SAP system and I see 16983, hit enter, there it is. So there's that real-time transaction capability that we deliver above and beyond just batching data from through Anypoint Studio. All right, Dave, Tom, anything else? Add-on questions that are here?
There was one that came up in the pregame that I think, Sonali, you were going to ask, unless we had already covered it. I just want to make sure that we cover off on all the bases.
Yeah, sure. So I have few questions. So my first question is, how Enosix PreBuilt Connector is better than the existing SAP S/4HANA connector and SAP accelerator we have in Anypoint platform?
Okay, so yeah, let's. It's a very common question that we get, and even for when we developed it and went to MuleSoft and to get our connector built and certified, they're like, we already have one of those. So when we think about the connector and what's different about it, is that it's not just a connector. It's a rewritten, purpose-built communication framework that talks to objects that are deployed inside SAP that you saw manipulated to get the data to sync in for APIs to be called to direct connect data. So there is no accelerator for ECC version of the existing premium connector on Exchange. There is a there's no variant configuration is excluded as a use case in the accelerator that is available for HANA. And so when you kind of add all those pieces up, you're getting APIs purpose built and pre-built by SAP experts with this connector suite, and you're getting a connector that can do not only data synchronization but can do virtualization and can also do real-time calls at scale. And so, I mean, anybody can on this line right now probably can write an API in MuleSoft that calls it BAPI and asks for one element. What do you think would happen, or what does happen? With the problem that we solve is that you know, at SAP, it's you can't process a 10,000 line quote in SAP from a front end. So we can, because of the way that we're architected and the purpose-built APIs in the back. So you can ask any one of our partners. The secret is not necessarily the MuleSoft connector. It's what's on the back end inside SAP that makes it easy to for people building APIs to access that SAP data and push it out to front end systems. So that's the major differences between the two. There are purposes for both and use cases, but if you want to sync data, the existing connector set does that fine, but you still have to build it all. So there still is a cost to build, and there's months of development, and then you have to, a good rule of thumb, when you build an API, it costs you about 20% of the original build to maintain it annually. So you're always accumulating and technical debt, and you're always having to manage it. And that's a big reason why the journey to S/4HANA is so complex. If we just want to look at this as a purely a Muley, on reuse, there's no better reusable aspect than the Enosix connector, because of all the pre-built stuff inside SAP. So Sonali, that's how I answer that question. Did that kind of give you some insight as to what the differences look like?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds really great to have the clear difference between the existing one and what Inox is giving us in the plate, and that's really much better.
You know what?
My second.
Sonali, there's one thing I left out that's really important, because you might be a developer, an architect that has the existing connector in place today. You might be a systems integrator that's trying to position a better way to do SAP. In true MuleSoft fashion, we can meet those customers and those opportunities where the customer is in that journey for SAP integration. Our connector can coexist next to any MuleSoft connector, including the premium one. So there is a path to migrate off, but as a true integration specialist, I would never tell anybody that has an existing process and an existing integration that works to say, oh, you've got to redo that and just build it again and using this connector. I would not say that there is a coexistence play, and there are things that I believe that this tool set can do that are superior to the old way of doing it. But there are perfectly good use cases where that connector works out just fine. So I wouldn't say better. It's just a matter of what are you trying to achieve for your business, and where do you want that SAP data to go? And long term, it's way less complicated with the way that our product works from an architecture point. We just got into a deal not too long ago that went live, and their SAP integrations to maintain on Boomi were costing $1 million annually just to keep those in service. That's not innovating. That's not stuff. That's just keeping the lights on. and we took their 97 discrete processes down to 3 at a fraction of the cost of the platform, and they don't have to build any more SAP stuff anymore. So it's a really, really good story about innovation, but also like short term, there's benefits, but also long term, and not accumulating technical debt is a big driver in SAP shops today.
That sounds wonderful. So my second question related to that only, that so what are the licensing terms and the pricing models for using the Enosix SAP connector with the MuleSoft?
Okay, so when we designed this with MuleSoft, we had to come up with a go-to-market strategy that dovetailed, and we couldn't be cost prohibitive. So when you, I'm truly not a sales guy, so I don't talk pricing. But what I can tell you is that the connector and the integration framework, or the communication framework, and the pre-built APIs for SAP cost less than the premium connectors for the 3 environments that are typically purchased. So it's apples to apples. There's a link to a free trial on my LinkedIn page. In fact, I'll grab that right now and put that in the chat so that everybody can, if they wanted to build an API and put it against our framework and see it come back, you can demonstrate that, and we can support you however you want. But we're a software company first. We have a software as a service license, so it's an annual subscription, and all of our customers get all the updates as needed. And every API that we put inside SAP is fully certified by SAP. Our MuleSoft connector has been certified and redone 4 times over the last 1 year. So we're very common. We keep that up and keep adding feature sets. And then finally, any of our front end components that if you're using Salesforce and that's your use case, connecting Salesforce to SAP, the front end components are fully available on the App Store and fully certified by Salesforce. So you got 3 Salesforce stacks, no custom code, no technical debt, and it's comparably priced to the existing to what was released in 2013, I believe. And there's just so much pre-built that we can really innovate fast and spend less time integrating and more time delivering innovation to our customers. So that's kind of how I would position the pricing question. But it's an annual subscription, software as a service.
Thank you so much, David. Thanks for all the answers.
I'm just
so
going to
go ahead, please.
Oh, I'm grabbing the did you know or moving forward bullets from in the presentation. And if anybody would like this presentation or a custom demo, I did see a couple familiar names on attendees. You can reach out to any one of us, but I will give you all these. I didn't do the hyperlinks, so I will have to grab these things one by one and put them in the chat. But back to you, Anne or Tom. Did you have anything to add as we close out this session, and then we can turn it back over to Sonali?
Yes, I do want to just mention there were some questions in the chat, so I just want to recover those. Thank you, Anne, for answering them. But the one about is there a free of charge community version to be able to test with it? Dave's going to be providing the link to the trial, so that'll get you the ability to interact with it in Anypoint Studio against one of our test servers. If you need it connected to your SAP system, obviously reach out to Anne. And if you want to get more complex about it, reach out to any of us and Anne. And then the other question was, is MongoDB having to be the destination? And no, Anne, you answered that correct beautifully. It's the way we like to think about it is what our connector is doing is unlocking your SAP data. In this case, we're unlocking it into your MuleSoft, into the MuleSoft ecosystem. So at that point, you can go anywhere with that data, your SAP data that MuleSoft connects you to today and where it will connect to in the future. our pre-built templates. We have some samples that are going into Mongo. We have lots of ones that are bringing data into Salesforce, as you kind of mentioned earlier. And not just syncing data, but a lot of those are also the virtualization pieces as well. So bringing over things like main data or master data, and then coming back and virtualizing data on top of that. And let's see, was there another question? Chris would like a copy of the deck. We got you, Chris. That's all I had to add.
I put all those links. I put all the links are updated inside the chat. They're all functional. So if you take a moment and copy those to your notepad or Word doc or something like that, or in a browser, you can reach out to any of us anytime. I'll be happy to take a phone call and get to know you a little bit more. But I really, really appreciate the MuleSoft community for Sonali and Prasanji hosting us. We will come back to Chicago. We will have a little happy hour. I think I'm targeting an event that for Chicago connections. And maybe we can do an in-person meetup on the eve of that, or maybe as a precursor to that, since we're all going to be possibly in the same room for a couple of days attending Salesforce sessions. So I think it's a great idea to target the summer. It's a great time to go to Chicago. You know, being from there, I get to see family and friends. So I can't thank you both enough for this opportunity. We truly value your partnership, and thank you everyone who attended and anybody who's going to watch this video. We hope it was entertaining and thought-provoking about how to do SAP a little bit easier.
Thank you so much, David, and we are very grateful to have you guys and help us out for the presentation. And you guys are most welcome to Chicago. So the next meetup will be amazing. Thank you so much, David. Thanks, and thanks, Tom, for spending some time with us and share the valuable information with us. I hope to the attendees as well, this information is really, really helpful. And we'll come up with the wonderful topic in the next meetup. We are trying to probably schedule it by mid-April. So we'll see each other again. Thanks, Enosix team. I'm so grateful, and thank you all the attendees who spent some time with us.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Thank you.